Basically, we're just going to be talking about e-commerce and assessing whether how to move past the Amazon if you're selling on marketplaces. The reason I chose this topic is because when I was speaking with the organizers for this. When I was speaking with the organizers for this event, they had mentioned that many of the people who registered were primarily, if they were involved with e-commerce, they're primarily selling on marketplaces, and of those marketplaces, Amazon. So I figured, the best value that I could bring would be discussing, how to, the possibility of monetizing, any channel off Amazon. If you have any questions, I have someone watching the Q&A. Feel free to post it. And yep, that's pretty much it. Usually, I'm used to speaking in front of live audiences, which you get some feedback from the audience. So you can usually have some give and take. It's a little bit different speaking directly to a camera with no feedback, no kind of interaction. So it's kind of like a long monologue or a soliloquy. So forgive me. Okay, so let's jump right into it. Okay, so just a quick background. I've been in e-commerce since the early 2000s. When I started, I started actually, I think, just about the time Google was what started Google AdWords, paid listings. Prior to that, there was something called GoTo. You could buy, you could do what was called paid inclusion and buy your organic rankings back in those days. It was a very different game back then, and I had started selling ink and toner online, and over a period of 11 years, I grew that online channel to about 80 million, a little over 80 million. And my background and most of my experience is primarily in marketing, both acquisition and retention marketing as it applies to online. So that includes SEO, SEM, retargeting, remarketing, affiliate marketing, and been involved in a lot of different projects. About 5 years ago, I started one-to-one e-commerce with my partners, and over those last 5 years, we've grown to over 50 people. We were recently named Adobe or Magento's emerging top partner of the year. And so I've been around. I have some experience in relevancy to the topic that that we're going to discuss. Again, one-to-one e-commerce is based in Ohio, and we primarily do Magento. And the focus today is really not going to be about Magento at all. We're really just going to be talking in generalities, trying to bring some value down to the table about if you're selling on Amazon, how do you expand that? So I have a link here for a 5-question poll. I don't know if you're able to click on that link from there, and if you can't, I can type it into the. I can have someone post that into the chat so that you can click that in. And if you guys could just quickly take that poll, that would be great. I'd get some more value back. And I forgot to turn my phone off. Sorry about that. So yeah, if you guys have a chance to take that poll, that would be very helpful in just giving me some more, so I can specify the content to you a little bit better. I think I copied that link over correctly, but here's the link. I posted it into the chat for the session. Okay, so moving on. If you're selling on Amazon, why do you want to get off of Amazon? It's a lot of people make their pronouns off Amazon, and I've seen different levels of scale with people bringing their business to Amazon, and I've seen different levels of efficiency. Primary benefits of moving off of Amazon is, keep in mind, you're at the whim of Amazon. I know that there's most of you probably are a member of the ASTSG group. If you're not, you can message me and I'll be happy to send you in that direction. They're a great resource for people who sell on Amazon. But Amazon owns your customer. They own that data, they own that customer, they own that brand. All you're doing is, building Amazon. The value that Amazon brings is, they bring you that customer. But, and that's maybe great for ramping up and starting off, but long term, should you get a policy violation, should Amazon decide to manufacture the product themselves, that's should you get blocked by the nascent owner, you're out of luck. um, the other aspect is that Amazon, primarily to be able to sell on Amazon, unless you have a niche product, unless you're manufacturing that product and you own that ASIN, you're always bidding on pricing. I mean, your margins are always going to be razor thin. No one's coming to you and buying from you on Amazon, because you have better customer service or your quality's better, or because you have, you know your product better than anyone else. All the USPs, all the unique or the value propositions that companies can rely on when they're selling from their own site, you don't have. The only value you really have is your price, and you're always going to be in a pricing war. You're always going to constantly have to adjust pricing, to work for the buy box, to work as a featured seller. And obviously there are other factors that go into the featured seller, but primarily price is always going to be one of the main ones. So when you're selling online, obviously Amazon takes, when you're selling on Amazon, Amazon takes a pretty hefty cut. And there's no ability to play with those margins based on other advertising channels. It is what it is. Another huge aspect for me, at least, is on Amazon. You really have a very limited ability to bundle and cross sell products. Amazon has their own their own algorithms. They can put other people's products with your product. You can make bundles directly, but the ability to customize, and really provide a unique experience, especially if you're selling, things that require assembly or things that commonly get paired, it can be, the user experience is definitely lacking, especially when you go to an industry, to a site that lives in that industry, and their website's geared to guiding people through that buying process. So I mean, in my opinion, there's definitely a benefit if the factors are right for you. There's definitely a benefit of moving off of Amazon. Okay, any questions right now? Does anyone have any questions? Do we have any data back from those polls? Anyone take it? Nope. Okay. Okay, so questions to ask yourself if you're thinking about getting off of Amazon. Do you currently have a website? Is it an informational site? Is it just a one-page site about your company? Is it an e-commerce website already? If so, what is, what are you on? Are you in WooCommerce? Are you in Shopify, BigCommerce, Magento? Are you getting traffic to the site? Where's that traffic coming from? And I'm not really, this topic isn't really, addressed to people who, have a healthy e-commerce business. By healthy, I mean that they're doing, upwards of 6 million a year online, just from the website, not Amazon. Are you tracking how many people come to your site if from Amazon? So if you're looking for your store name that you have on Amazon, I know, and I've spoken to many people who have businesses on Amazon. I know a lot of our customers have businesses on Amazon, and there are a fair amount of people, especially when they're selling something that's a good, good quality, but they may come in different varieties or different shapes, or there may be a larger product line behind that. It's not uncommon for a consumer to look for the store name online to see, look for the store name online to see, if they can get a wider selection directly from that seller's website. So if you're tracking that, that might be a good gauge to see whether it's worth, whether it's worth it to see if going online as a separate store is a good investment. Do you have your own brand? So are you doing any kind of custom packaging? Any kind of custom boxing? Those are all things that will differentiate you, and also be able to create that aftermarket experience. Do you have a physical store? That's also important in determining. It's one of the factors we look at when assessing whether someone should make that investment, if there's going to be an ROI into making an e-commerce store, a robust e-commerce store, a scalable e-commerce store. And then finally, if do you have wholesale distribution relationships? So for example, I know many people who, just sell anything on Amazon. They'll look for closeouts, and one day they'll sell, baby toys, and the next day they'll sell a crop of dehumidifiers that they found. They're humidifiers, and then depends on what they get. They don't really have any established relationships and not working in any one vertical. And then I know other people who, work in, who primarily just sell one vertical, sporting supplies, automotive parts, and they have those wholesale relationships where they can get, better pricing, and they also have and then they have a downstream as well. That's a B2B downstream where, maybe they're selling, their automotive supplies at their rate to garages, local garages, or more do-it-yourself, other smaller sites who don't have the buying power to get those kind of relationships. Um, so that's a big, those are all questions, that will determine whether it makes sense, to go with an e-commerce store. Okay, so if anyone has any questions, again, just feel free to post them. So I think the next slide really is just assessing the viability of an e-commerce site. So I would personally, I always look at the average order value. So if your average order value is less than 75, it's really, really hard to it's really hard to make hold on, I have to find, sorry, it's really hard to be able to make enough money to pay for advertising, right? So if you think of it like this, I'm just going to share my screen for a second. Here we go. Okay, so if you're looking at my screen, let's just say my average order value is $55, right? So assuming that, let's say, a standard cost of goods is 50, now yours could be less, could be more. You can, anyone who wants the sheet, I'll be happy to send it over. You have to pay for shipping, overhead. Then your remainder, your remainder before advertising, you do anything, is going to be $22 after you pay for everything else, right? So if you're, if you want to spend, in my experience at least, it's very hard to do any kind of marketing where your cost per acquisition is going to be less than $17, $18 at the max, at the minimum. Sorry, like for example, acquiring a brand new customer for $9, on paid search would, that you have to look at how much your cost per click is, and then what your conversion rate is off of that. And if you back that out, generally, to stay anything under, $17, $18 is really, really, really hard, right? And so that average order value. So if my marketing costs, let's say, are $17, here, I'm walking away with $5 on a sale like that. Now, but that's only if everything here stays the same. If your shipping goes up, or your overhead goes up, or your cost of goods is higher, those are all going to go down, right? So you really don't have, and then again, if it costs you $20 to acquire the customer, you're really walking away with almost nothing. I found, consistently, over a 20-year period, that $75 just really seems to be the break-even point to where you can engage in online marketing profitably, across multiple channels, and have enough of a viability to test, and still walk out with a net margin, with the gross margin, with a net margin greater than 10%, because no one really wants to walk away with 4% of what they're doing in their pocket. It kind of sucks. So that's here. I'm going to go back to sharing that file, but that's really that's how. Have to wait for that to load. That's really why AOV plays such an important piece. So now, if your AOV is less than 75, then strategies that you want to look at are bundling. Creating bundles to get your average order value higher. Cross-selling, or possibly, if you can, moving people into subscription. And it really, again, just depends on what you sell. And this is one of the issues of giving a topic to to a bunch of to different people, where you don't really have a common, where I don't have enough information really to make it more specific. So I'm trying to just give enough information to make it viable, so that if you have any questions, you're welcome to come back, and I'll be happy to help in any way I can. Okay, so if you're under 75, it's likely you're not going to be able to, do a lot off of Amazon. You're not, paid search is going to end, is going to have a higher cost of acquisition than, that would probably fit into your margin. And if you're above 75, and you're doing well on Amazon, if you have, some of the other factors we discussed, where you have a brand name and, people are coming to look for you, you can start focusing on getting an e-commerce site. One of the first questions that you're going to have with an e-commerce site is, yeah, you can make a great e-commerce site, but if the one of the biggest values that Amazon does, and I think it's I think it's probably very clear. I don't have to spell it out. Is that it brings the customer to you, right? You're not out there. You're paying that high percentage because they're bringing that buyer to you. But if you have your website out there, it does take time to get found on SEO. Even if you do paid search, that takes time to zero in on. You can focus on inbound marketing. There's co-marketing that you can look at, but there's a ramp up cost to get that kind of traffic to your site. Okay, any questions from anybody? Anybody? Questions? None. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so we kind of covered some of this stuff as well. But if you're going to be looking to get off of Amazon, it's important to focus on creating a brand experience. I'm not talking about a luxury brand experience, but I'm talking about making sure that that there's when people come to a website, they're looking for two things. Okay, on a higher level, they're looking for one, to make sure that they're buying the product that they need. So is this the product that I'm looking for? Is it going to meet my needs? And depending on the product, that could be a question of, does it fit, the make or model of whatever I'm buying for? Does it do the job that I want it to do? Is the quality good? How is it reviewed? And then the second question that they're asking themselves always is, who am I buying it from? Can I trust the source that I'm buying it from? Am I going to have problems with the company I'm buying it from if there's any issues with the product itself, right? So there really is there's a product level digestion of the information, to determine whether it's something that they want to buy. And then there's also that company level value propositions, which they're looking at, and common value propositions, which you don't really have on Amazon. Again, are great breadth of product, fast shipping, reliable service. And these are the reasons why they buy from Amazon, because Amazon has those, not you. You don't have those. That's what Amazon's guaranteeing. So fast shipping, a wide selection of products. What Amazon doesn't have is knowledgeable staff, industry experience, subject matter expertise. The most of the products you buy on Amazon have some kind of warranty and guarantee, at least for the 30 days. That makes it very easy to return. What you can offer that Amazon doesn't offer, again, is really the usability, making it easier to find the product that they want, pair it with similar products, pair it with products that that are compatible to it, doing bundling, assemblies. Those are all factors or features that a website can offer that Amazon can. Additionally, on the B2B side, the website can also, you have the ability to have more business-to-business relationships by offering negotiated pricing and other types of B2B functionality, like RFQ, payment on terms. And those are all things that you really can't do, that businesses can't get on Amazon, at least directly from a manufacturer or distributor. The other aspect is, if you're going to go online, it's very important to have a defined acquisition and retention strategy. Most of the time when we get involved with a company, we find that they're very focused on acquisition, but with almost no thought put around retention. Unlike Amazon, when you get a customer to purchase from your site, you own that customer and you have the ability to remarket to them. You really can't do that at Amazon without violating the policy. You can put something into the box, that says, if you have questions or products, please contact, in the product, please contact us. But you can't really put any kind of promotional material in there. Oh, okay. Yeah, Howard, Wedgo had actually had a comment. I'll get to that in a second. So having a defined retention strategies is equally as important as figuring out how to get customers. So how do you keep your customers engaged? And I will tell you that it is a lot easier now to do that in 2020 than it was, 10 years ago. Just to put this in perspective, uh, 10 years ago, I think I spent about $600,000 doing an integration with ExactTarget, which was later acquired by Salesforce, to do an integration with my marketing, with the website to be able to send out campaigns based on what people bought, when they bought it, how often they bought it, and I could say people who bought X they'd also like to buy this. People who bought X, they need a replacement filter now, and having all that information talk back and forth to the ExactTarget system to do that integration, to build out those rules, to build out that workflow, cost over $500,000. Today you can get that for $300-400 a month, even less than with some systems. Digital is a great system to look at. Klaviyo is a great system to look at. There's just many out there. It just comes out of the box now. These kinds of segmentations are really important. For anyone who's been in marketing, it sounds like I'm saying the basic things again and again, but retention marketing is not about batch and blast. Batch and blast is when you send everybody in your newsletter, and it doesn't matter if it's 5,000 people in your newsletter, or 300 people in your newsletter, or 2 million people in your newsletter. But when you're sending everyone the same message, that's called batch and blast. And those typically have the lowest return and the highest rate of unsubscribe or drop off. And I had found when we were doing batch and blast, let's just say that for, if I'm looking at my total revenue generated by newsletter, that was a metric I always found the most useful. If I had, 100,000, if I had 100,000 subscribers in my newsletter and I sent out the emails throughout the month, and to all 100,000, and I made 200,000, then I had a $2 return per email, right? It's just a very easy metric to work off of. So I found that when I was doing batch and blast, my return on the email was about $1.30. When I switched to segmenting and really sending to people who only bought Saturdays and Sundays, I'd send them their emails just on Saturday and Sunday. To people who bought X, you may be interested in this, you bought this. When I started sending out smaller campaigns, my unsubscribe rate dropped tremendously, and my revenue per email went from like $1.30 to about $2.80. So it more than doubled. The engagement was higher. I had less problems with inboxing, so being whitelisted was less of a problem, and I was able to get through much easier. So it's important to have a retention strategy and determine how you want to do that, because it costs way more to acquire a new customer than to keep a customer. Also, yeah, so that's really it. Bundling products. If you're using a website, if you have a website now, bundling is insanely important. There's a lot of different tools out there. You guys can reach out to me, and I'll be happy to let you know some of the automated tools that will help you with bundling. So yeah, Howard, you mentioned that reviews on Amazon, you got swindled once with a company selling sports jerseys. So this wasn't really part of the topic, but just from a personal perspective, I found that reviews on Amazon are almost worthless to me now. For one, there was a long period of time, and I know that Amazon did crack down on it, where reviews were incentivized. So there were sites that you can go to, sign up, get free products, and technically they didn't pay you to leave a review. So you just have to say that like I received this. All you had to do technically was just say I received this product, to review, and then you leave a review, and you get the verified purchase from Amazon because you used a coupon that they would give you, and then so you have all these reviews from people who left positive reviews because they got free. And I thought, okay, I can live with that, I can go through that and weed out the ones that didn't do that. But then what I found, and I actually documented, I sent it into Amazon's toss, but I found several cases where companies were using ASINs and swapping out the product listed with the ASINs. So like a great example would be I'd be looking for a phone charger or something, and then and it's got 6,000, it's got a 4.5, a 4.75 star review with 6,000 reviews. And I'm like, wow, that's insane. 6,000 reviews, that's wonderful. So I start digging through the reviews and I see that, some of the reviews are talking about a ring, some of the reviews are talking about, a pair of shoes, some of the reviews are talking about, a towel hook. And basically they're just swapping out the title on the ASIN and the image on the ASIN, and just keeping the positive, highly sought after, ASIN spot to push the product. So that's happened to me many times, and I found that I just can't rely on Amazon reviews anymore. So yeah, it's interesting to see how they've kind of devalued themselves there. Okay, any questions, any thoughts before I move on? Excellent. Okay, usually my wife yells at me when I just start talking and don't let anyone else get a word in edgewise, but here I seem to be in my element. Wonderful. Okay. If you're already online, if you're thinking about getting online, where do you fall into that scheme? If you haven't gotten online yet, then I would probably take a look at, a system that's easy to get onto, like Shopify. They're made to be self-service. We don't do Shopify, so and I don't really know any good companies that do Shopify, although I'm sure there are. I'm not saying anything negative about it. I think it's a wonderful platform for, if the conditions are right. So again, if you're just selling products directly to consumer, and you have a pretty healthy SKU count, and you're getting online for the first time, Shopify is a great platform. It's easy to start up. It's turnkey, so they'll handle the order management. They'll handle, the custom. They have a basic CRM in there, and an order management platform. They have the ability to connect with different shopping systems. You could really get yourself live on Shopify. Downsides of Shopify are that, you're on a cookie cutter system. You're not going to have that much individuality. They host it, and being able to customize it, it's like trying to customize your online banking. I mean, good luck. What the options they give you are the options that you're going to have, unless you move to like a Shopify Plus, and even then you still have some limitations. But that cost to get on is going to go up tremendously. So the way when I look at not launched yet, and people are not going online, I'm always assuming that they're going to want to spend less than 15 grand to get online, right? That could be a big budget for someone who's not online and really looking to make that first foray. If you've recently launched a site and you're looking to drive traffic to it, you really need that visibility to survive off of Amazon. You need to be able to drive that traffic to your site. So things that you should be focusing on, if these terms don't mean anything to you, then you need to learn enough about them so they mean something to you. You need to learn about inbound marketing, right? Creating content to get people to coming to your site. So HubSpot generally is the leader in inbound marketing. Elysian Resources, they have a free library. You can definitely check it out. But inbound marketing is absolutely proven. There's so many use cases, of companies who have grown the revenue by 2, 3, 4, 5,000%, just by inbound marketing, right? So, and you've seen inbound marketing in your own inbox when you see these emails that come in that say like 6 things every Amazon seller needs to know, or if you have a hobby, 4 things that every home mechanic should keep in his house, his home garage. These are all inbound marketing contents. They're built around creating very short, segmented pieces of content that people that are relatable, right? So, and that also ties into SEO. SEO is a lot smarter than search engines, and the algorithms that they use to rank are a lot smarter than they used to be. And the best rule for SEO is when you're creating content, create content that you yourself would find valuable. Don't look to keyword stuff. Don't look to just put up content to get up content. Google looks at fresh content really, really positively. You know, you're putting up fresh content, Google's noticing that, but they also notice the quality of the content. You know, they're pretty intelligent, and you know, without having a person actually read them to determine if that content has value to the general market. You know, so again, you know, invest in getting a content writer. We have a couple of, you know, we don't do content writing, but I can definitely recommend you to some content companies who are really, really great. If you're looking for someone to help with the overall inbound marketing strategy, there's several companies that I can introduce you to, depending on your budget, what industry you're on. Again, we're a HubSpot inbound certified company. We don't do any of the HubSpot inbound marketing. The reason we're certified is just because when we do e-commerce, we want to make sure we do the best e-commerce site possible, and we have to know all the aspects of what an e-commerce site has to, you know, how people come to an e-commerce site, you know, how orders, you know, get fulfilled on an e-commerce site, how products get on. So we train and we take certification in other areas besides Magento, but we don't provide them as a service. They're just to make us an expert in one thing, not a jack of all trades. I'm not pushing us. I'm just telling you that I can introduce you if you need any recommendations for any services. If you have questions, I'll be happy to point you in the right direction. Again, I talked about remarketing. It's an insanely part of your. It's an insanely important part of your makeup. Remarketing again typically tends to have their highest return on investment of any kind of marketing effort, right? So if you're paying, let's just say, you know, you're paying for a good remarketing platform, you're paying $500 a month or $1,000 a month to use that remarketing platform, you should be making that $500 back after like your first email. If you're not, then you need to look at the emails you're sending out. I mean, you know, when I was on the e-commerce side and I was selling ink and toner, you know, the metric I would use with my vendors is not ROI. I'd use a metric called return on ad spend, right? Which is for every dollar I spend on advertising, I need to make back X, right? Because an X has to also factor in that you know, I can't you know, factor in my cost of goods and my other expenses. So when I was doing my marketing, for every dollar I spent, the minimum I can make back was $3, right? You know, because I had to count for, if I sold something for $3, I had to count when I spent $1 on that marketing, I spent also $1.50 on the cost of goods, and I spent 10% on my shipping. Well, that would leave me with, like, you know, 20 cents, right? You know, that was really, you know, the minimum I can make on my marketing. When I did return on ads, the return on ad spend, the ROAS on my newsletters was probably again closer to like that 800% mark. You know, so if you're not remarketing, then you don't have a revenue channel in your mix that will offset your cost of other marketing. So having that really gives you more leverage to be more aggressive in testing, and gives you more flexibility in taking hits when things, you know, don't necessarily have a profitable outcome. Keep in mind, by the way, that I'm specifically using the words profitable outcome and instead of saying don't work, because even marketing that doesn't work, you know, even marketing that didn't, you know, you should always be pulling something out of every lesson. You know, why didn't it work? You know, and taking that lesson and using it for the future. If you already have a website, you're well established, you've been on for a year, you have a lot of SKUs, you know, you should be on a bigger system by now. Yeah, you know, Magento's a great system. You know, as you get past that, you know, these different types of revenue marks, so 1 million, 2 million, whatever it is, or as you grow in SKU counts, you'll find that you'll outgrow other systems like Shopify, especially as you find that your needs become more complex for internal operations. You won't need to use the order management system in Shopify or the inventory, which is very limited, and you'll need to get other systems. And at that point, you know, you're on a turnkey system without using, you know, more than 0.25% of the functionality in there. Any questions from anybody? Cool. All right, so couple of things to evaluate when you're looking for an e-commerce platform. If you're looking to go offline, how big is your catalog? If you're selling one or under 10 products, you could probably even get away with a WooCommerce site. But if your catalog starts to scale, and then at that point you're going to be looking at having something that's really database driven, and can connect other systems easily, and you're already then now into like that Shopify, BigCommerce, Volusion, Magento market. If you're selling on B2B, then that pretty much puts you on Magento, which is the only one that has like a really solid, strong native B2B suite on it. The other systems, especially BigCommerce, has they claim to have a B2B system, but it's kind of like a Rube Goldberg type of machine where they integrate with 2 or 3 other different platforms to try to make their B2B solution work. If you have complex products or complex ordering, then you need something that is open source, which means that you have the ability to customize it, to meet your to meet your requirements. So you probably want to take a look again. I think Magento. These are all points to go for Magento. If you're shipping from multiple warehouses, a lot of the systems also have a problem with managing inventory across multiple locations or managing drop shippers. Shopify does a pretty good job of managing drop shippers. Magento can do it very easily. Here's I'll post a site into the channel. This is a site that we launched probably about 5 months ago. It's a drop shipping site. We have over 500,000 SKUs on there already, and we're doing about 100,000 in sales a month on there in under 5 months. So that's built on Magento, and then building out those workflows are all parts of, how Magento, we couldn't have done this on Shopify, to the degree that we did, and the ability to scale up as we did. If you have multiple sites with multiple products and prices means that, on any other system but Magento, you have to log into each site or build separate integrations to manage each one separately. Magento is the only platform that allows you to manage multiple sites, multiple products, and multiple pricing across multiple sites from one backend very easily. And then the biggest one really is also, do you have someone in-house to maintain it? So one of the biggest failings I see in a lot of companies when they splurge on getting these programs either on-site customization or on-site personalization, or they're paying, for enterprise licenses for different softwares, is that they don't have the people to actually use the functionality that they're paying for. So if you don't have someone to use the system, to pull the data, to look at the reports, to make the campaigns, then don't pay for it. Because you're not going to get your value. So however much, it looks awesome when they show you a demo, make sure that you have the ability to actually use it, because, it's just money. It's put the money into something else that you'll actually, will drive traffic instead of just a feed that won't. So it is important to make sure you have that expectation and that you build that infrastructure where you're using whatever you can. Any questions from anybody? Nope. Okay. Okay, if you're looking at a company, so I think my next slide says, I thought I had a slide that said, if you're looking to choose, if you're looking to do your website yourself, by yourself, don't. So they're not easy. Coming from the commerce and the client side. Before I started this company, I probably launched about 12 sites. Since I started one-to-one e-commerce, we've launched well over 130, 140 sites. There's a big learning curve in launching a site. And the biggest one is you don't know what you don't know. Working with the proper development partner is important. They'll help you understand and bring to the table, and get the information out of you that they need to know to make sure that the site is smooth. So you want to make sure that you're working with someone who has a proven track record. And it's not just important, I like to tell people when I speak to them, and they ask, hey, what differentiates, one-to-one e-commerce from other agencies? I always, I think the number one thing that differentiates us is we actually launch, the sites that people pay us to launch. So they don't just sit in development for years. That's a really important metric. They're getting the job done. Do they know the platform that they're on? Are they actually launching, the projects that they're taking on? What's the satisfaction of the customers that they're dealing with? What's their communication like? What's the visibility like? So, everyone, will show logs of time, right? Like, hey, we're billing you hourly, here's a log of time. I personally, as a client, never found any value in a log of time, because you show me that you worked, 5 hours on something. That's great. But what if it's something that you told me would take 1 hour and you really went 4 hours over? I had no context, or what if it's something, that you showed me we worked 5 hours and it's 50 hours, and I have no clue that there's another 45 hours left on that one task. So, having context around the time they spend is very important. Context means, how are they hitting their estimates? What's their average deliverability? How do they communicate when they're not going to hit their estimates? What kind of reporting do they give, and how detailed, and at what intervals do they give it? If they've worked on similar sites to your industry or product, I think that has some importance. But I think it's more important, to have a company that has a proven track record of delivering projects, clearly with communication, with transparency. I don't think that, on the back end of things, when we're looking at websites, whether we're putting up someone who's buying rugs or someone who's buying shoes, the mechanics of that are not so different, right? If we're selling someone who's selling rugs, but it's sold by the linear foot, if we show you that we've done steel, and it's sold by the linear foot, and we have to calculate pricing on the same, then those are the types of things that you want to look for. It's not necessarily do they fit the exact product, but do they fit those use cases? Do they fit, do they understand, is what they've done fluid enough to be applied, to what you've done, and do they understand your business? And that's, I think, the biggest test is, can they speak, do you have to explain your business to them again and again and again and again, or do they really understand what you do and what you sell and how your customers interact with that product, what they're looking for when they're on there? And that's one of the most important things, I think, is really making sure that an agency understands, what is a customer looking for when they're looking at that product? What are going to be the potential obstacles, for getting that product into a cart and checking out? I personally, I'm always wary of hiring companies that do a lot of things. So I like to, this is some people say, hey, I want to hire a development company that does the marketing and the SEO, and I want everything in one shot. Great. I find the jack of all trades tend to be master of none. Again, the approach that we take, this is not to sell one-to-one e-commerce. You can, the approach that I like to find in vendors that I have is that they're really good at what they do, and if there's an ancillary service, they can introduce me to someone else who does it well. And you also want to know the average size of the client that they work with. Do they, are they able to handle the volume, that you're going to bring them? And that may not be a lot of volume. Maybe you don't have a lot of volume, and you just want to make sure that you're not going to be the smallest guy, the smallest fish in the sea. Like what's the, not the minimum that they'll take, but really what's the minimum that you'll get attention for? It's a good way to point the question, because I can tell you straight out that if I had a client that was doing 1 hour a month, and that came in and that's all they ever wanted, I'd have a hard time scheduling them, because I don't have, it's not worth it for me to take developers off of a project, where I have a couple of 100 hours booked to do 1 hour for one person, unless they had already done a big project with us, maybe, in that circumstance. But okay, any questions so far? Nope. Okay. Okay. So just some thoughts on COVID. So what I've seen on a personal level, at the time, we typically have about 50 to 60 active clients at any time. So let's say I have 70 clients signed up, in the company, 50 to 60 are active at a time. Some of them go, are, the seasonal. So, for example, pool companies, I won't hear anything from them, from November to like January, like November to February, nothing. Come February, they're starting to ramp up, and by the and by July, they're really almost done actually. So we have a lot of different clients. We've seen a lot of different impacts, come out, and how this is played on a personal level. What I've come to see out from my own buying behavior is that before, I would never consider buying anything that wouldn't get here in 2 days. Amazon gave it to me in 2 days. Why would I look at anything else, right? Now I find that half the stuff I buy on Amazon is coming from, anything that comes from China, I have to wait forever for now. And most of the stuff now it's starting to get back to like 2 day. I'm getting it some days, next day, but a lot of things still aren't. So I think, our expectation of what 2 day shipping and what we expect, is gone. How quickly that will come back, probably quickly. I think we'll get reacclimated to that kind of delivery times again. But it does show that those things aren't written in stone. I found that professionally, from our perspective, we had to be pretty fluid in terms of reevaluating and readjusting what our priorities were, during COVID, and also helping some of our customers adjust what their priorities were. So there's cases where we've had clients who put their projects on hold, because they just saw a drop in business, but we were able to tell them, hey, listen, we'll stop invoicing for 60 days, whatever it is, and let's move on. And when you're ready and business catches up, you can slowly catch up. So I was able to keep my people off the bench, and still make progress in some of their projects as well. I do see a big move, and a lot of my companies who manufacture in the U.S. is seeing a huge increase, from the people switching, not just because the problem's dealing with China, but because I think that there's definitely going to be a move back to made in the U.S. Coming. In terms of the COVID strategies that we saw, and I think this is if they're saying that this happens again in November, October, wherever it is. Our strategy, and again, I'm not saying that I'm some kind of visionary or genius. My strategy was really simple when COVID came. We focused on doing what we do well. We kept our we adjusted our marketing strategy slightly, which I'll get to in a minute. But I didn't suddenly say I'm gonna, start building, websites for COVID, test kits, or try to capitalize on the whole COVID environment. We had some clients, who did try to get into PPP, and they didn't, and without the proper relationships. And I think we've all seen the stories of the people who, like, hey, I'm going to buy hand sanitizer, I'm going to buy masks, I'm going to buy gloves. I just spoke to someone a couple of days ago from New York, who's sitting on pallets of gloves because apparently, gloves are big, and now no one in New York is wearing them anymore. I'm in Ohio. We didn't wear gloves to begin with. We've had some clients who were able to move into PPP relatively easily if they're in the textiles and manufacturing. But again, I think that trying to restructure, I've had many people, come over and be like, oh, I wish I had started getting and selling mastering this whole thing. It would have made a fortune. I'm like, took us like what you bought the mask to begin with, like suddenly you're going to start selling, and then you have them, like the whole idea of switching an industry or switching into out of your comfort zone, for something that's so transient. I'm not a risk tolerant guy. So it wasn't a matter of risk. It just didn't sound intelligent to me. So what we did, I don't know if it's the next slide. Yeah, it is the next slide. Pretty cool. We focused on the areas that we felt there would be a gap. So uh, during during COVID, I felt that my competitors in my industry wouldn't be focusing on SEO. They would be cutting back the marketing because times are uncertain. Their deals aren't closing as quickly as possible. We actually did the opposite. We put a lot of money into SEO very aggressively over the last 4 months. We've actually increased on a lot of our key terms are now on page number one because we're pushing out very, very highly relevant content. They're not updating their sites. Literally in a period of like 6 weeks, we overtook almost all of our competitors on SEO. Because we were focusing on an area that we knew that they wouldn't be. So that was a strategy on our end. Thank God it paid off. But it's important to update your site, get content out there. Unless your competitor is really savvy or the other people in the market are really savvy, I can guarantee you for every savvy one, there's 10 more that are not. So putting that kind of funding in, if you wanted some good SEO companies, I'd be happy to recommend you as well. And in speaking to SEO companies, by the way, I'll just give you the same disclaimer I give to all my customers. We don't do SEO. SEO is, to me, always one of the hardest things to quantify paying for, whether you're getting your money when you're paying someone to do it. When I speak to an SEO company, when I hire our own SEO company that we use, or I recommend an SEO company, or I look at an SEO contract from a prospect who's speaking to an SEO company, the first thing I want to make sure is that they're not guaranteeing any positioning, because that's just like a straight up flat. No one can guarantee a spot in Google. What I do look for is quantities. I want to know, so reports mean nothing to me. The way the SEO reports, they pay for third-party software that you can run the report, and it takes, once you set up the first report, it takes 2 seconds to run the next report. So the fact that they're giving you reporting every week, every day, every 2 hours means nothing. It's all automated. I want to know how much effort I'm getting back in terms of the money I'm paying for SEO. So that means how much edits and content and suggestions are they giving me for on-site updates? How much content are they writing? What kind of are they doing any kind of social media content? What is their content strategy? Really, I'm looking at the number of items that are producing, in relation to the fee that I'm paying them. Okay, so yeah, again, SEO, we had a tremendous increase there. Different use cases, event source. They're a Cleveland-based company who has service centers around America. They rent party supplies. Their business totally stopped during COVID. They took the time to update the website, so they focused full ahead on the e-commerce investment, and then also focused, because business was down, all the people who were typically busy being reactive had time to be proactive, and so they streamlined internal operations so they could operate more efficiently with less cost. I thought that was a great lesson, in the ability, to take that time, to take the expertise of the people instead of benching them. Let's focus on making, our future operations more profitable. We had another client. They manufacture hats. They're in textiles. They had all the machinery to just go right to masks. And that's what they did. They switched over everything over in a week and a half, and they did amazing. Through that. Nothing really to do with us. So I'm just saying that they were able to make that switch. That was a good example of moving over. Concourse Sports was another client. They sell organized sports equipment. Took a massive hit during COVID. No one's playing basketball, no one's playing football, no one's playing baseball, no one's playing any kind of organized sport. But they leveraged their wholesale distribution and manufacturing relationships. They leveraged those relationships to get into camping equipment and hunting and arms and firearms. And they were able to get into that market based on their existing relationships on better pricing, and really focused on moving those items through COVID, which those had tremendous sales. And obviously, if you're not following the news, I don't know if everyone knows, but firearms, that whole market. Well, you try buying a box of ammo now; it's not so easy. Okay, general tips. If you're, if you have a retail store, buy online, pick up in store is really important. If you're forced to close, figure out how to get, your shoppers online. Again, that's through newsletters. Make sure that you put out relevant content that's value. Meaning, if you think about the places that you shop, and if they got the email that you're sitting there prepared to send out, if you got that email that you're planning on sending out as their customer, would it bring value to you? If the answer is no, that you'd probably find it annoying or delete it, then rewrite it or don't send it, because people are inundated and you want to bring value. Most online retailers are running sales consistently through COVID. Usually giving a medial discount of 40%. I'm not saying I agree or not. These are stats that are just out there that are being published. And 90% of customers say free shipping is a top incentive. That's really nothing new. I mean, free shipping's been one of the top reasons for cart abandonment since 2008, since like the 2006, since when they started first publishing cart abandonment studies. Okay, if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to reach me, 120ecommerce.com, Ben at 121ecommerce.com. I'll give you a free 15-minute consultation, but I start charging at 16 minutes. No, I'm just joking. Just reach out. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. If I can help anybody, I'm really happy to. I don't, you don't have to, I'm not looking to sell a Magento site. I don't expect anyone to sign up for a Magento site, but if I know something that can help, I'm happy to help. If you need an introduction or you're looking for a service, just let me know. Okay, I'll stay on for like another minute if anyone has any questions. Anyone answer that poll? Does anyone have any questions? No. Okay, sounds good. Oh, no. Okay. What's like, I don't know what the protocol is, so I have to, like, am I like honor bound to stay on for another 4 minutes? Like in case someone asks a question, like, and they're taking time formulating it. For those of you who have websites, I wanted to point out one more thing anyway. We talked briefly about, a metric called return on ad spend, which is, I think the easiest metric that you want to set. That if you're going to give a metric to a vendor to work with, like a paid search vendor, that's the metric you want to give, because then you're not opening them up to ROI. Really is not a valid metric, because ROI has to count in, all other internal things like your cost of goods and things like that, and you don't want to necessarily share them. But one thing I find as a pet, like I find somewhat irritating. I shouldn't say irritating, but one thing that comes up a lot is people say, "Oh, how do I improve my conversion rate?" Right? And there's no definitive way to improve conversion rate. Conversion rate is really just like it's a combination of multiple metrics. So technically, conversion rate is the number of visitors to your, number of orders divided by the number of visitors to your site. Really, conversion rate is a factor of multiple things. It's how many people continue on to the second page. So it's basically, how many people don't bounce from your site. It's how many people actually get to a product that they're looking to buy. So that's the product finding method. How many people actually land on a product detail page? Of the people who land on that product page, or a page where they can add that product to the cart, how many of them actually add the product to the cart? So that's the add to cart rate. How many of them, once they're in the cart, move to checkout, right? And that's the cart abandonment. And then how many of them in checkout actually check out, that's or drop out, that's checkout abandonment. Changes in any one of those 5 metrics are going to have a big improvement, can have an impact on your overall growth, on gross revenue from the site. Looking at where you're the weakest is really the low-hanging fruit. So understanding those metrics, breaking them out, and then finding out which is the weakest is really the best way to improve your overall conversion rate. And it's worthwhile to invest in making sure that your Google Analytics is set up correctly on your site. And that's puts me at 2 minutes. Woohoo! Okay, good. I filled out my time. I'm gonna give you guys 1 more second, see if there's any questions, and then I'm hanging up.